Donald Trump is delivering on a promise that has come up many times over the course of his campaign for the White House. Listen.
We are going to deliver justice the way justice used to be in this country. At the ballot box on November 8th, we are going to do something so special. It will be so special. It will be an amazing day. It'll be called Brexit plus plus plus.
President-elect Trump supported the UK exit from the European Union, and his election to the White House is reminding the world of that movement that really changed Europe, or has begun to change Europe. Joining me right now over Skype is former German Minister of Economics under Merkel, KT Guttenberg. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Maria. How are you?
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad we were able to do this through Skype because the last time you were here, you were on set. What's your reaction, first off? KT, Trump's election obviously reigniting talks of the rise of populism in Europe. What's your take on Donald Trump winning the presidency?
Honestly, I was also surprised. I was in Hamburg last morning and yesterday morning, and I looked into the same frozen faces that I saw just right after the Brexit. So there was that kind of deja vu reaction. For me, it is hard with an international background, with a foreign policy background, to actually understand or get a grip on what does he stand for, what will be his wider scheme and take on foreign policy. And that's exactly the reaction you get from every single capital across Europe right now.
Yeah, well, what about the refugee crisis in Europe? I mean, obviously that had a big impact on Angela Merkel. The refugee crisis in Europe, refugees are still pouring in through the borders of European countries. What's the state of that? And will Donald Trump's election as the next president change anything in that regard?
There's a lot of fear right now in Europe. They say if we face an America sliding into international isolationism, it will probably make it way harder for us to control the causes, the root causes of the refugees, specifically coming from the Middle East and also Northern Africa. So a lot of Europeans rely on the fact and rely on the opportunity to work together with the Americans here. And that's a concern. That's a true concern. So the refugee crisis is far from being over. Europe is the magnet for so many desperate people around the globe, and they need a cooperation with the U.S. and an engaged United States in the wider region, specifically in the Middle East.
What did you think of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's congratulations to Donald Trump? A lot of people were looking at all of the world leaders and what they said about Donald Trump, and basically it was felt that Merkel's was sort of among the most muted. What did she think of Donald Trump?
An embrace is something different, to put it mildly. I think her remark was rather unusual for her to say, to tie it to shared values, but then to come up and actually tell everybody, well, this means human dignity. This means that we respect the gender, that we respect different races, that we respect everything. So we will cooperate on the basis of that. So a surprising move by Angela Merkel. I think she will reach out quite professionally, not in an embracing way, but you see already how uncomfortable many do feel at the moment. I give you just two examples of what I heard as reactions from high-level people yesterday in Germany.
Yeah.
One was quoting the old Bismarck, the old Chancellor Bismarck, who once said, there's a providence that protects kids, children, drunkards, idiots, and the United States of America. So that was one reaction.
Wow.
And actually, he meant it in a way that he said, okay, everything will be good at the end of the day. But that's a tough statement.
I know.
The other guy said, well, this is actually a great chance to unify Europe, because the last time we've been unified was under Stalin in Russia, in the Soviet Union. So there might be another moment for Europe to unify because of someone who might be as bad as the guy on the other side of our borders.
Oh, God.
So just to give you an example of how the reactions are, I think there's a lot of work on the shoulders now of the president-elect to give the Europeans an idea that he's definitely different.
Yeah, I mean, look, Angela Merkel here's her quote, Germany and America are bound by their values, democracy, freedom, the respect for law, and the dignity of human beings, independent of their origin, skin color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or political position. On this basis of these values, I offer the future President of the United States, Donald Trump, close cooperation. There you go. Let me ask you about you see parallels between what happened here in the U.S. to what happened in Europe with Britain voting to leave the European Union, that populism really taking force. Is that what's going on?
Oh, definitely. There are a lot of parallels of what means to use to actually capture and attract people who are extremely tired of the so-called establishment. And that's nothing you have solely in the US. You have that in almost every single European member state. And there are a lot of concerns right now that they say, okay, here we have the blueprint on how to do it. So you have the French elections next year with Le Pen coming in, and she was the first actually congratulating Trump yesterday from the European side. And they watched closely of how you can be successful with rather simple means and how you can outwit the so-called establishment. So that's a fear in Europe that they say now, regardless how the outcome will be, maybe we have a very sensible president at the end of the day, but we see populism as a means to come to power. And you have that across the borderlines in the European Union. By the way, also in Germany with a new group that has popped up in the last few years.
What is the most important thing you think, KT, Donald Trump needs to do in terms of Europe?
I think the most important thing is to start to understand Europe and to leave the Europeans with the impression that he's sincere and deeply interested in the historic elements of how the European Union was built, and that he's willing to reach out as a partner, as an ally, as yes, also a critical friend. You can be someone who criticizes a friend, and that will happen the other way around as well, and that he has advisors and professionals around him with the necessary experience, because that honestly I don't see yet.
All right, we will leave it there. KT, great to see you. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you very much.
KT Guttenberg joining us there.